Hello, welcome to the west coast of beautiful British Columbia, Canada, on the traditional territories of the Hwayout First Nations. I'm Em, and I'm an educator here at the Bamfield Marine Sciences Centre, or BMSC for short. We are a not-for-profit and registered Canadian charity and a shared campus of the universities of British Columbia, Victoria, Alberta, Calgary, and also Simon Fraser University. For almost 50 years, we have been hosting researchers from all over the world, as well as offering university classes for credit and running immersive public education field trips for school groups. So if you like what we do and you want to see more, please consider making a donation. We've got information on how to do that in our video notes, and we'll post that link in the Zoom channel. I'm here right now in the Ricks building. It's a beautiful space, and we're going to be doing a live fish feed for you today. Really excited. The rest of our team, we've got Phil and we've got Tori. So Phil's going to show you where we are located using Google Maps.
Thanks, Em. Hi, everybody. So here I am in the whale lab of our facility at the Bamfield Marine Sciences Center. And let me just show everyone where we are in compared to the rest of the world. So looking here at our Google Earth image, you can see we have all of North America, and Vancouver Island is on the west side of Canada, right here. And so Bamfield, I will begin to zoom in. Bamfield is on the west side of Vancouver Island. So here we have Barkley Sound, this large bay filled with islands and channels. A very awesome place for paddling and canoeing and all kinds of camping and stuff, and fishing, of course. And Bamfield is right here. Two peninsulas make up Bamfield, and the Marine Science Center is right on the point of this side right here. So here we have our main building. Em is over here in the Ricks Center, and I'm right here in what is called the Whale Lab. So there you have it, our place in the world. Back to you, Em.
Thanks, Phil. I'm standing here in front of the Ricks tank. We've got a bunch of animals here that would be found in a limited Wi-Fi. Get started by looking at our rockfish. So we've got these two beautiful black rockfish right here, and we've got Tori up here, and she's going to be feeding our fish. So Phil's nice and far away from me in another building, and Tori and I are going to be staying over 2 meters apart to maintain the physical distancing. We've got a bunch of yummy fish in this tank. Our other black rockfish over here, his name is Jaws. So see why as he comes a little closer. You can see his mouth's a little funny looking. There we go. He's eating some food. See these black rockfish, you can see that they're a bit darker on the top of their body and a bit lighter on their bellies. This is a strategy known as countershading. Countershading is a technique to avoid predators because if you're super dark from the top, when a predator looks down at you, you kind of blend into the dark abyss. But if you're seen from below, your light belly blends right into the bright surface. These rockfish don't have to worry about predators at all, though. They're both non-releasable, and so they will live out their nice long lives in our care. I'm going to be asking you some questions in the course of this webinar. And I would love for everyone, young or old, to kind of chime in and let me know what you think. The first question I've got for you, I want you to all tell me how old a black rockfish could get. So how long will these animals be living in our care? Let me know in the comments and we'll read out some of your answers in a moment. So we mentioned that Jaws' mouth is a little bit funny. Here he is giving us a nice look at it. He was caught by researchers who were studying rockfish recruitment. Nice, that was a great shot. So he was caught with a bunch of other fish that were similar in age, and they all had similar jaw deformities, which is quite strange for a whole group of animals to look so similar. They brought them all back to BMSC. There's 8 of them in total, and unfortunately, the other 7 of his siblings, their mouths were too deformed and they were unable to survive, even being fed in captivity. However, as you can see, Jaws is pretty happy to get a nice, delicious gourmet, all-you-can-eat buffet of little chunks of fish, and so he isn't really too fussed to be hand-fed all the time. Our other rockfish in this tank is Popeye, and she might be acting a little bit funny today because she's actually gravid, which means that she's full of eggs. So Popeye is down here, and her mouth works perfectly well, but she's actually completely blind. Unfortunately, she suffered a bacterial infection that can be quite common in aquarium fish, and it caused her eyes to bug out, hence the name Popeye. And by the time the bacterial infection was treated, she had lost her sight. When this happened, the animal care team was quite worried that we wouldn't be able to keep her, because if she's not able to see, there's concerns about her being able to eat. But at the time, the animal care technician said, "Give me a week, I'll figure something out. Don't give up on her quite yet. She's not out of the count." And within a week, they were able to teach her how to eat from her hand. So Tori's going to try to do that right now. The first thing that she's doing is tapping on the surface. You can see her fingers right there. So she's tapping on the surface of the water, and that's kind of her cue, her auditory cue to come and get some food. So fish have what's called a lateral line on the side of their body, and they're able to use this to detect motion in the water. So Tori is saying to Popeye, "It's dinner time, come get some food." And hopefully she'll be hungry enough and will come out. You can see how big her belly is. That's not chub. That's actually all of the eggs that are inside of her. She's nice and ready. Popeye is probably my favorite fish here at BMSC, and I'm not the only one. She's definitely a favorite amongst our staff. But Jaws actually is also quite in love with her. I know that it's not good to anthropomorphize animals. That is the characteristic of assigning human feelings or emotions to animals. But every year when Popeye gets gravid, Jaws will try to woo her. He'll perform courting rituals, and he'll chase her around the tank, trying to get her to mate with him. But unfortunately, because she is blind, she's not able to see any of these rituals, and so she never notices him. His attempts go unnoticed. It's actually quite sad. They're kind of like star-crossed lovers. Strangely, when fish like Popeye are gravid, they are less hungry. So Troy is working really hard for us right now, trying to bring Popeye over. But you can see she's kind of retreated to this little corner right here. This is where she hangs out when she doesn't want to be disturbed. So she's maybe not super excited about food. But here comes Tori with what we call in the science community the grabby grabby, which is the scientific word for this fancy contraption. It allows us to get nice and close to the fish while staying nice and dry, so you can see it from the top. This big long arm, and Tori is trying to entice Popeye, but she does seem quite uninterested. Oh, there she goes. She just got a little bite. Maybe that'll be enough to whet her appetite. Nice job, Tori. Feeding the fish is definitely one of our favorite activities here. It can be quite fun. So we had one comment. Let's see, take a look at how old people think rockfish like these can get. We've got Eora. I hope that's how you pronounce your name. Eora is saying 50 years old. That is absolutely correct. That is completely the right answer. These black rockfish can get up to 50 years old, and so they'll be living at BMSC for quite a while. Great job. Thanks for participating. So while Tori is feeding the rest of the fish, let's talk a little bit about suction feeding. Oh, maybe we can get a bite. She's doing her best, but if Popeye's not hungry, there's nothing you can do.
Hey, I'm Phil here.
Hi, Phil.
I have a question to shoot to you. Do you know how big, so this is coming from Hélène in Ontario, how big do rockfish grow?
How big do rockfish grow? That is a great question. So Popeye, you can see in comparison to the rest of the snake, is pretty large. But the biggest rockfish, I'm actually not sure how big they can get. Maybe Phil can help me out on that question. They can grow pretty large. Some rockfish get up to 80 years old. And so you can imagine how incredibly large they could get in that time. That's a great question. Okay, let's talk about section feeding. I'm not sure about you, but I like to eat snacks in the bathtub. And I know whenever I drop a little bit of food in the tub and I go to pick it up, you kind of try to pinch your fingers. And every time you try to grab the food or the little bit of lint or whatever you're trying to grab, it kind of scoots away. The water pressure from your fingers closing pushes the object out of your reach. That's true for people in our bathtubs, but it's also true for our marine animals. So they have to be pretty creative to get around this limitation. And that's where suction feeding comes in. Instead of trying to grab their food, what fish do is they open their mouths and they expand their throats, and that creates a vacuum that sucks a bunch of fish or whatever is in front of them into their mouths. And that's how they're able to eat. So when you're seeing Popeye, you can see her whole mouth opening up and it sucks the food in. Let's take a look at some of our other fish and we'll see if they can show off that feeding for you. Here we've got two copper rockfish. These are new additions to the tank. You can see how itty bitty they are in comparison to the rest of the animals. These copper rockfish, there you go, this lovely little bite. They're quite a bit smaller and they only live to be up about 40 years, so a little bit younger than the black rockfish. But this is a species that is known for being really easy and fun to catch. So do we have any fisher people in the audience? Anyone here like to go fishing? I'd love to hear what kind of fish you like to catch when you're out on the lakes or in a boat or in a river. Because scientists at BMSC found that fish that have this kind of suction feeding strategy, that like to open their mouths and suck the food in, they found that they recover pretty poorly from being caught. This is because when they're caught by hook and line, that hook will pierce their lip and it creates a hole in the suction. And so not able to suction feed quite as efficiently. They also found that it's likely that the stress and exhaustion of being caught and hauled up also contributes to their unwillingness and inability to eat. But it is largely due in part because we've introduced a leaky hole into the suction mechanism. This copper rockfish is really showing off for us right now. It's a beautiful color. So we've been talking a little bit about rockfish age. These are animals that can live similar lifespans to humans. So some species get up to 80 years old, and they don't reach sexual maturity until 10 years. This means that as they're being caught, it's going to take these populations a really long time to recover. In BC in particular, our rockfish populations are having kind of a hard time. They are declining, and it takes, like I said, a long time for them to bounce back. And so scientists and policymakers are trying to do everything they can to help these species recover. One of those things is introducing rockfish conservation areas. These are areas in the ocean where you're not allowed to fish at all. You can't fish for salmon, you can't fish for perch, nothing. No hook and line fishing at all. And that's to let the rockfish have a chance to try and recover. Oftentimes, if you're in the grocery store and you're looking for fish for dinner, you won't see rockfish labeled anywhere. That's because it's a pretty controversial species to be eating. And so oftentimes they'll label rockfish as snapper instead of rockfish because it sounds a bit tastier and maybe you don't realize that it's coming from a local threatened species. So one way that you can try to be really sustainable in your eating habits is when you're going to the grocery store and you're looking online or in person these days for a fish that you can eat, you can check out Oceanwise Canada's program. They've got a little blue salmon sticker, and if you see that little logo on your food, if you're in Canada, that means that the species you're eating is sustainably caught, and it means that the population isn't in severe decline. And if you're in America, if you're joining us from down across the border, they've got Seafood Watch. And so that's the program that you can check out to make sure that whatever you're eating is good for the ocean and not harming it. So let's take one more look at our fish. We've got Jaws heading towards a bit of food right now. Let's see if he goes for it. Oh, it looks like Tori's gonna try to feed Popeye again. Got the grabbies coming in.
Hey, Em.
Just barely see you in the corner. Yeah, Phil?
So I've found out a bit of info, a little bit more about black rockfish. They can get up to almost 70 centimeters long.
70 centimeters, wow.
And up to 5 kilograms in weight. And also your signal was off a little bit when you were talking about their sexual maturity. It's between 6 and 8 years of age that they become reproductive.
Wow. So those are pretty massive fish. So I've got this meter stick right here. Let's mine that out on this meter stick. So we've got this whole stick. I'm gonna put it down on the ground. So 70 centimeters would be about here. So you can see in comparison to my foot, that is quite the fish. That'd be quite large. Thanks for that info, Phil. I appreciate your quick researching skills. Take a pause from looking at all these beautiful charismatic fish, and let's talk about maybe a lesser known fish for a bit. Anyone ever heard of the Pacific hagfish? Hagfish are a super fun group of animals. They are fish, and they're in the same phylum as you or I, the phylum Vertebrata, which is things with spines. But hagfish actually lack spines. They also lack jaws and teeth and eyes and fins and really a skull as we know it. So they're a pretty wacky creature. Let's take a look at what those look like. So they like to live in the dark. So we've got this tank covered by a towel. We're going to expose them to light for a little bit just so you can get a good look at them. Here we go. Let's get a light on. These are our hagfish. They are so beautiful. You can see they're big and curled up. We've got 2 of them in the tank. We call this structure the cinnamon bun pose. So these hagfish are completely blind, and they find their way around the bottom using their sense of smell. They're pretty floppy looking. You can see how wrinkly their skin is. How might a hagfish like this defend itself? How will they be able to protect themselves from predators? Let me know in the comments. You can see we've got this big fish head in here because it's fish feed day for the hagfish as well. And they would find something like this fish head using their sense of smell. So they would crawl along the bottom, swimming back and forth until they'd smell some rotting flesh, their scavengers, and then they'll latch on. So I told you earlier that they don't have any teeth. They've got keratin plates instead. You can see their little faces. I've actually got 3 in this tank, pardon me. You can see their little faces. They've got these little keratin plates in their mouths. And without jaws, their mouths are always open. And so what they do is they'll latch onto decomposing flesh like this fish head, and they'll rasp away at the flesh with their little mouths. Researchers at BMSC found out that they don't just like to take bites from the outside, they also like to go and wiggle their way inside of the flesh, so inside the bodies of the dead. Sounds a little hardcore, but it's not just to look cool. Researchers found that they're able to absorb nutrients through their skin. So they're not just taking bites, they're actually absorbing food particles through their bodies, which is pretty impressive. And you can imagine it might be kind of hard for them to latch onto food without a set of working jaws. And so what they'll do is tie themselves in knots. You can see this one right here is actually tied itself around its friend. They'll tie themselves into an overhand knot and use that to kind of give themselves some purchase to push against the flesh. So doesn't look like we had many guesses on how they defend themselves, which is fair. It's not very intuitive, but hagfish actually release a ton of slime. Whenever they're threatened or attacked by a predator, they will release buckets and buckets of slime, up to 20 liters of it. That's almost this entire glass tank full of slime. Pretty impressive. They'll release all this slime, and that slime will choke up the predator, get caught in their gills, caught in their mouths, and just taste pretty awful. So we've actually got some slime to show you today. Got a bucket full of it. So let's get this light on. Here we go. So we've got this bucket full of slime. Let's reach in. And you can see all of that goo. This is what they released when we caught them with nets and put them in this tank. And they released a whole bunch of slime. You can imagine how a mouthful of that would taste pretty awful. Certainly not excited about trying it. This slime actually also helps them absorb nutrients. So researchers at BMSC found out that slime facilitates or helps with the uptake of nutrients, but it prevents them from absorbing heavy metals or other harmful things they wouldn't want to take into their bodies. So it's more than just a defense mechanism from predators, it's also a defense mechanism from toxins. Looks like there's a question. What's the question, Phil?
Yeah, the question is, are they also found in freshwater?
So hagfish are not found in freshwater, but there is a similar species, a similar group called the lamprey. And so that's one that you'd be finding in freshwater. And they also kind of have that big, open, gaping, rasping mouth. That's the lamprey. Great question. Awesome. So we'll take a look at our Rick's tank. And if you've got any questions for us, now would be a great time to ask those while we watch the last kind of couple chunks of fish get fed and vacuumed up by Jaws. You can see in this tank, we've got a bunch of animals that aren't just fish. Here we've got a little plumose anemone. We've got a bunch of anemones in here, because like I mentioned earlier, in the real kelp forest, these are kind of the animals that you would see. So maybe Tori can show you what happens when you feed an anemone. Got a great shot of this green one right here. Do you want to put a little bit of fish in its mouth? Here comes Tori. Gonna feed the green anemone. Yum. So these invertebrates in our care also get fed quite well. So this is your last chance to ask questions. Don't be shy, type away.
Well, I have one here coming from YouTube. Can anything eat hagfish?
Can anything eat hagfish? So some things can eat hagfish. There's actually this kind of famous video from Ocean Networks Canada. That is a group that does a lot of ocean monitoring. And Ocean Networks Canada has these cameras set out in locations that will pick up little video clips from the deep. And they need a lot of help analyzing all this footage. So there was a teenager, a young boy, and he was watching camera trap footage and saw a hagfish that was slurped up by a monster. And he wrote an email to scientists and said, hey, I was watching this channel and this massive monster just slurped up this thing. What is it? And the researchers looked at the video footage and they were a little bit confused. I know often you'll see clickbait articles that say things like, researchers baffled by this scientific phenomenon. But it was true, they were actually pretty confused. And they did a bunch of sending it out to their colleagues and their friends, and eventually realized that it was something called an elephant seal. And it was this big elephant seal that had swum down, dove super deep, and just slurped up a hagfish like a bit of spaghetti. So some things are definitely able to eat hagfish, but lots of things also avoid them because they are quite slimy. But some people eat hagfish too. So it looks like Luke's asking a question. Luke wants to know if humans can neutralize the slime to harvest them. So I know Tori was talking about some of her time spent in Korea and how she really wishes that she had tried some hagfish. I'm not sure that they neutralize the slime, but maybe they just scrape it all off once the hagfish has been killed. Tori, can you speak to that at all?
I never tried hagfish slime or hagfish, but apparently it's kind of like the white of an egg.
Oh, So Tori said that she's never tried hagfish slime, but apparently it's like the white of an egg. That makes sense. It's kind of proteiny. Yum. Great question. Okay, any final questions before we sign off here?
No, it seems to be all quiet on this front.
All quiet on YouTube. Okay. So thank you so much to all of you that tuned in to watch. And thank you to everyone who's made donations recently. Thanks to Phil for doing all the behind the scenes stuff. Thanks to Tori for working so hard to feed all of our fish for us. And again, thanks to all of you at home for watching. One more time, Bamfield is a nonprofit registered Canadian charity. And so if you enjoyed the show, we'd really appreciate it if you consider making a donation. Thank you so much from all of us here at BMSC. Have a great day. We enjoyed hanging out with you.